Hey everybody, my name is Shawn Brown.
And I'm Susan.
And we're coming to you live from Crawfordville, Georgia at the first inaugural gathering. And we're on Waypoint Overland TV.
Sponsored by Midland. Communication for every adventure. The industry leader in radio communication technology and innovation for over 50 years. Sponsored by MyMedic. Sponsored by Tembo Tusk. Sponsored by Trail Rated Coffee Company. Sponsored by CK Knife and Tool.
Always remember, the opinion you follow should be your own. Just consider the things stated here to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online.
So I was born in Columbus, Ohio, raised in Reynoldsburg, Ohio, just east of Columbus, suburb. Spent a little bit of time out in California in the Bay Area, but spent a majority of my childhood, elementary, grade school, and up to high school in the Reynoldsburg School District in that area. We met at a grocery store that we both used to work at.
In high school.
In high school, yeah. We went to different high schools, but we kind of hit it off after a little while. Took some time. I had to win her over, and eventually, we got married. We had a child, Dylan. Then we ended up having a couple more children later on in life. But we're proud parents of 3 beautiful boys.
I was born in Columbus, Ohio, born and raised there in a suburb. And yes, like he said, he had to win me over. He didn't really have to win me over. We lived there up until he joined the Army, and then we've moved all around ever since, and I've enjoyed every adventure with him and our 3 boys.
So as a child, we were rather poor or strapped for cash. So a single parent, my mom raised me. She would take me on very inexpensive vehicle-based travels. We spent a lot of time in her Chrysler Cordova, I believe it was, big 2-door sedan, just touring this country, getting to see Chattanooga, Tennessee, or taking me out to some place in North Carolina. We'd go to the Outer Banks for inexpensive vacations, but we spent a lot of week-long trips through the summer when school was out. Didn't have much, but that was an affordable way for us to travel, just the 2 of us, and we got to see a lot of the country that way. And I really gained appreciation for vehicle-based travel and vehicle-based support and travel, what they now call overland in so many circles.
Well, I did grow up camping, but it was in a camper, a pop-up camper, and it was typically at state parks or campsites. There were 5 children, so we kind of packed in there what we could. And I never knew anything about overlanding until I met him, but have enjoyed every bit of it. I always said when I first met him, I said, oh no, we have to have a campsite, and it has to have hot showers, and everything has to be perfect, because that's what I knew. Until he introduced me that, does it really have to be perfect? And I think I have way more fun now.
So I am a network engineer for UC Berkeley National Lab out of UC Berkeley, California, under the Department of Energy.
I work in compliance for a local credit union in Knoxville, Tennessee.
So as a child, like I say, I lived in a suburb, but it was kind of on the edge of being a suburban at the time, still being country. A lot of open fields, parks all around. So, the neighborhood kids, we'd get together and we'd go on our weekend adventures just about every weekend on our bikes, running down to some not quite developed park, hanging around the local creek. We would just go down there fishing, be there for 12, 14, 18 hours a day until the street lights came on. You had to come home. So spent a lot of time outside as a child. Back then kids would spend the entire summer seasons just outdoors as most we can. And from that, I did join the Army when I graduated high school, or shortly after graduating high school. And I was fortunate enough with my job and the skill sets that I learned that I got to spend a lot of time camping, basically overlanding. We were vehicle-based exploring in foreign countries out of the back of a Hummer, sleeping on a transmission tunnel in the Humvee, or setting up some little small pop tent or something, and just sustaining ourselves on the top of some mountain. We could be there for 5 days, 7 days, 30 days, whatever the mission called for. And it just got a real love and appreciation for it, and just always wanted to do that with the family and our children when we would get back home. And from our experiences, the early years of doing this, it was affordable. We already had a 4x4 vehicle. We were in Arizona. There's a Car Canyon was our favorite little national forest to escape out to in our park. Inexpensive campgrounds, I believe, like $5 maybe. And that was affordable at the time. But you had to do put it in 4-wheel drive to get to the campsite. And, it wasn't so much her thing, but the kids loved it. And it was just something that we could do for a quick weekend. And we really grew or at least I really grew to love it, along with her children. She started to come on a little bit more with it, but yeah.
Yes, I did not love it as much as he did. So he got out of the Army, or even when he was in the Army, and he just always wanted to go up to the mountains with hardly anything with us. And we had 2 little kids at that time, and I was pregnant with the third one. So I was very pregnant, not quite 9 months pregnant, and he's wanting to go up to the mountains where there was nobody around. He was a combat lifesaver, so he brings a little bag in case I went into labor. I will tell you, we came back Sunday and I went into labor Tuesday, so it was a very close call. I was not too keen on always going, but I watched my children have fun. They would just go up there, and there was no TV, we didn't do internet as much back then, but there was no anything, they just played outside together, and it was wonderful. So I got to relax, which was very uncommon when you have little boys. And I realized that this is important for us. Now, fast forward a little bit, when the kids grew up, then him and I needed something together, and we started just tent camping again. And I absolutely loved it. It was a whole new outlook on it, because I didn't have to take care of 3 little kids while doing that and packing for everybody. It was a whole different world. Although I did do it, it became just about us. And we enjoyed hiking. We enjoyed going up to the middle of nowhere and popping a tent. And I absolutely love it now. And I'm the one that would do it. Well, he would too. We would do it every single day if we could.
Okay, so we were kind of doing a lot of the tent camping. I was doing some motorcycle overland camping prior to this occasionally. I had a BMW GS. It was just something that was a single person heading out into the mountains to pop either a hammock or maybe a small tent. 1 night, 2 nights would have been really pushing it. I could pack light, but I couldn't pack light enough, I would say, for a couple nights. We did another trip, camping trip, on a motorcycle, but we went to an established campground. Wasn't really as comfortable as when we would do a vehicle-based camping, and so we ultimately got a small. Well, we did have a 32-foot RV. Neither one of us really enjoyed that. That was too large. We had the truck, we had this RV with a lot of space, and as comfortable as it was just big and a lot to deal with. And we were always going to some type of supported campground with power, water, something along those lines. We downsized it again from that to a large REI tent. REI probably is the one organization that's most responsible for us being in the position that we are now. They have provided the opportunity for us to grab so much material, camps, things I didn't know existed. It definitely wasn't around when I was in the Army or when we were young. Never would have been able to afford half of this stuff in our younger years. But with our children grown and the garage sales and different things that they have, it's made it much more capable for us to grab equipment and things. So we started expanding our camping, and our tent setup was amazing, but it took a long time. Setting up your outdoor kitchen, all these different things. It wasn't a 10-minute ordeal. It took a while. So we decided to go back to an RV, a travel trailer, and we did a 16-foot Airstream nest, and that was incredibly comfortable. But, it was a lot to take care of that particular trailer. It needed polished, waxed on a very regular basis. So as much as we enjoyed it, there was one bad part of it, and that was the bed having to be made every night. We'd have to tear up the couch and seating area, convert it to a bed, and we were either asleep or sleeping and laying down, or you were sitting at the dinette, but you couldn't do both. And I'm an early riser and need somewhere to sit first thing in the morning, and that just wasn't really an option. So we ended up selling that, and we were in the same boat. We were still having a truck, a trailer, having to tow. It just wasn't a favorable. It had a lot of perks, positive things, but there was more to it than what we really wanted to do for a quick weekend getaway or something. And we didn't foresee ourselves being able to really live out of it for anything longer than 4 or 5 days comfortably. We probably could have, but really would have been outside of our capabilities at the time. And that led us to this, what we have now, and that's a 2019 Winnebago Revel. And we have our seating area, a separate dinette seating area. We've got a bed that electrically raises and lowers us out of the garage storage, but we have plenty of storage space. We have our 4x4 capability, and all of this is in one vehicle. And I'm sure there's a few things that you love about it, more so than what I figured I need, but most importantly, it has a bathroom and a shower that is easy enough to there's no setup really. We push a few buttons, we make sure we're level, send out the awning, set up these chairs, we're done. But I'll let you kind of speak on the things that you love or hate about the
So we looked at this when we were buying our Airstream nest. They had one of these there, and I remember going inside of it with him, and he was like, "Oh, I've wanted to see a Revel in person." And I go, "Oh, why would anyone want that vehicle? There's nothing." To me, it was very basic versus the Airstreams, which are plush and bigger. And he said, "Well, it's off-road capable, and it has everything in." And I said, "Okay." It's so funny how your mindset changes, because fast forward like 2 years later, and I'm going, "Oh my gosh, I gotta have one of those," And because we were talking about it, our Airstream nest was wonderful. It was very cute, but there were some parts, and when you have to hook up something, it becomes a kind of an ordeal. So we both decided that we wanted something we could just pop in, drive, and take with us. I love this thing. When he drives down the road, I don't have to make him stop for a bathroom stop every time. I can just walk back in there and go. I can make lunch. I've made lunch for us while he was driving. That's probably not the safest thing, but I can do it quickly. I know where everything's at. I can grab snacks, refill waters. It's wonderful. It's like a little home. I told him today, I said, I love this thing so much. It's like a little home on wheels. I feel like I'm at home when I'm in there, and then we can open up the door and we're around everybody else, and it's just my favorite so far.
As wonderful as this vehicle is behind us, it is not free and it's not inexpensive. We did find this version used, and it had a lot of the upgrades and the things that we already wanted on it. But financially, we had to make a lot of sacrifices. We wouldn't have been able to do this a few years ago. It was finding the right job, getting the right pay, paying off and eliminating as much debt as possible. And we would hear about folks doing that and living debt-free, and we understood that it would take a lot of commitment from us. But, fortunately, a lot of things worked out in our advantage and timing. I don't think we would have been able to do this without it. And that's really the fact that the market, the demand, COVID, that pandemic increased the demand for RVs. And so it was very easy. There was a demand for our Airstream nest. As much as we loved the inside, we didn't like the outside. We knew we were ready to sell that less than a year after getting it. We were kind of worried we would take a heck of a hit, but we really didn't. The market was strong and the demand was high. So we were able to offload that to some other poor soul. And then, timing still continued to work out. A lot of folks were working remote due to the pandemic. She got a new job and was, going to be going part-time remote a few days out of the week. That ended up becoming full-time remote. The organization I was with at the time was, due to COVID, was working remote. And then I kind of fell in love with the thought of having a network engineering job where I could work remote. And I ended up taking a new position that was going to be a full-time remote, kind of keeping some of the same benefits. But that transition period allowed me to make that rather tough decision to actually cash out my pension, keep my 401k, roll that over so I had some form of retirement. But it was an opportunity to cash out our pension and really just pay off all the debt that we had at the time, and give us a bit of a savings and a buffer. And it allowed us to then purchase this RV. The day it came on the market, it was maybe 5 minutes after we saw it. She's on the phone with their credit union and loan secured, while I'm on the phone negotiating a price with the existing owner, and the deal was done. So again, this is an expensive vehicle. So part of our rationing for purchasing this was we were going to have to use this as a daily driver. That makes it a lot more practical, feasible, and justifiable, if you will, for our mental health. We didn't finance it for 20 years. We did a shorter term, and the payment is still less than what we've paid for some of our vehicles, and that was important for us. We know there's some tax benefits that we'll plan to take advantage of, but we don't really count on the financial benefits of those being at least too meaningful. But we knew that if we were to tell ourselves that this is a daily driver vehicle and that we actually use it as such, take it out, a few times a year to do our grocery trips, anything, then it wasn't just a overland vehicle focused, or it wasn't just an overland focused vehicle. It was something we could, enjoy on a regular basis. And again, due to COVID, we really did. We had, curbside pickup, sit down, and we had a built-in dinette. We could stay separated from other folks. We could go to a local park and back up to a pond and feed the ducks duck food, not bread, duck food. We could sit down and watch nature in our local city in a somewhat private environment, if you will. And we really started finding out how many different uses there is for this. Not just to get away on Saturday and Sunday, Friday night, Saturday, Sunday, or a week-long trip or anything, but we actually found a lot of use. If you're going to a grocery store, you can just place your groceries directly in the refrigerator. Keep things cool on a hot southern summer, 95 degrees out with 100% humidity. Having a battery system that we can run, or having a battery system that can support our air conditioning unit, makes this a comfortable vehicle for us to travel to downtown with a dog or other people, and just keeping the vehicle cool even when we're not utilizing it. We just realized there was a lot of benefits to this vehicle, and that helped make that choice, that decision to make the moves that we did when we did worthwhile. So let's see.
I just want to preface with, we still have pensions and 401ks, both of us. I don't want to make it sound like we're horrible or anything. I would say my part of it is that I really wanted to move to a condo. I know that sounds really weird to some people, but I don't want to have to worry about yard work and dealing with stuff. I want to leave on weekends. When Saturday hits or Friday night hits, I don't want to sit here and worry about, we had, a bigger house from our kids moving in. They all moved out. I didn't want that. So getting the condo kind of opened up a chance to say, okay, so what are we going to do for our weekends? And that was where this came in. So him downsizing and losing, the yard, all that kind of fun stuff, he still has something fun out in the park, in the parking lot that we can take away and get out away from the little small condo place. So that was my part of it.
It's going to actually be something I'm not cooking. At that time, I think it's going to be her spaghetti sauce in particular. But I think that's going to be the go-to. It's easy enough to cook, heat up. We can even fake it till we make it. That she's putting it together from scratch inside. But yeah, the kitchen's not huge here, and that's an easy enough meal prep to have taken care of ahead of time, and easy enough to heat up when you're on site. I think, in my opinion, it's going to be her pasta, her spaghetti in particular. But you may have something different that you're thinking.
I was actually thinking he would cook, and it would be his. He makes really good Asian food, and he'll marinate the chicken, and we'll bring it marinated, and then he'll bring, actually we have brought some now, and he'll put some veggies and all that. I was thinking it would be one of his concoctions, because when we camp, it's really funny. At home, I do a majority. I wouldn't say I do all the cooking, but I do a majority. But here, he does more of the cooking because he likes to cook outside. You saw him cooking breakfast. I typically cook breakfast, but I love his breakfast when we have him outside. So I would say it would probably be one of his really good because he doesn't go by any type of recipe. To be honest, my sauce isn't a recipe either. It's a Italian thing, but any of his cooking isn't a recipe. He just puts it together and tastes it until it tastes good. So I would say his food.
So my favorite ethnic food is definitely, well, until today, this weekend, I thought it was really Indian food. I depend heavily, there's a lot of flavor, and I depend heavily on flavor to determine how good something is. And Indian food has been kind of my go-to favorite food. Pizza, of course, right, that's a great comfort food for me. But Indian food, if I want a complicated taste on my palate, that's it for me. Now, again, that's where this Revel really has come into play. I may not necessarily, you guys know what I'm talking about here. I'm not always comfortable eating that in public, and may not make it home in time. So this has been a great benefit for that. But I would say that's my favorite type of food.
I think I would say Mediterranean food because it's healthy, it's very versatile, and different places have different takes on it. So I would say Mediterranean.
Yeah, I'm going to change my answer. I'm going to say Mediterranean food now that I think about it, because I'm really craving a hero right about now. And how easy is that and simple. But to go back to the gathering in this weekend, I've had the best piece of chicken I've ever had in my life. No offense, sorry.
No, I agree.
I'm the chicken cooker really in our family, but whatever they did here,
it was phenomenal.
it was great. And then even another chicken tender that was cooked on a campfire in one of our classes, it just came out of nowhere. They threw it on, and a few minutes later it was done, and it was amazing. Mayonnaise on a grilled cheese sandwich instead of butter. Never heard of that until this weekend. It's like, it's easier to camp with mayonnaise than it is butter, especially in the refrigerator here that we seem to turn into a freezer on a regular basis. Yeah, I mean, this camp food, we'll put it all in a category of just soul food, camp food. Whew, amazing. It was just, I mean, there's a restaurant here. There's definitely a business. There's a business idea for sure, but yeah, I'd say Mediterranean is my favorite food now. Well, see, I wish I would have known maybe a little bit more on a financial game. If I would have been a little bit smarter in our younger years, smarter, we'll call it what it was. If I would have been a little bit more educated and had a little bit better knowledge exactly on how everything worked financially, credit, of course, being a major portion of that. But, my very young years, wasn't smart in that aspect. And I wish I would have just paid a little bit better attention to exactly what I was doing, buying this car, carrying over this negative equity. It wasn't, seemed like a great idea at the time, right? And we'll wipe it out when we pay off this vehicle. But we never paid off this vehicle. And if we kind of created a daisy chain of something getting carried over in most cases, not always, but just about most cases. So I wish I would have kind of done that a little bit better at the start, and I think that would have made some of these transitions a little bit smoother for us. I wasn't really worried about our children. We knew that they had good heads on their shoulders for the most part. 3 very different, unique boys going about everything 3 different ways, but ending up with that same end goal of independence and not really reliance on the parents. Financial independence, all of the mistakes and things that we learned and picked up throughout the years, we definitely made sure that they knew not to make those same mistakes. And that was something I didn't get, that education. And I'm not blaming anyone else. I didn't seek it either. Someone would offer something shiny and just sign here. I couldn't turn that down, And I think that probably would have been, if I could go back with the what I've learned now and change things, I think it would be the way I did certain, vehicle-wise at least. I don't regret the houses and things that we've purchased, but I think I would have handled vehicles a different way, and I would have tried to got that discipline to actually hold on to something, or the maturity to say, this is good enough, we'll just keep it through the end, and not just go after that next shiny thing. And that's even difficult in the overlanding world. There's a lot of product out there. I need this, I need that. You get that feeling. YouTube definitely there's influencers that really influence the heck out of your daily decisions now, coming down to it, and looking at what I'm going to research online and take a look at what do I need to, what's that next thing that we got to have. This has got a lot of aftermarket things in there, and I didn't know about any of those things. I never learned about any of it on my own. It's all something that we've learned through influencers, YouTube creators, and I'm thankful for it. I don't have things on here that are going to hurt any of our trips or expeditions, if you will. But yeah, that's probably the one thing I would have changed.
I would have loved if he didn't buy all the cars and listen to me, but 26 years later, hey, he's finally saying, okay, do we really need this? My thing that I would have changed, and I say this to my kids today, is I wish that it was more common to travel the U.S. and homeschool them in an RV. I would have done that in a heartbeat today. Back then, maybe not. I don't know. But to watch some of these kids and the adventures that they get and the knowledge that they get, and actually how bonded a lot of the siblings are when you watch, that's the fun part about YouTube. Watch them travel together. I would have done that. I would have, if I could do it over, I would absolutely do that 100%.
I would say these Max Tracks sitting up here, they have been the piece of equipment that gives me the safest peace of mind, the sanity to maybe go a little bit further, a little bit deeper, knowing that I'll probably likely be able to get out of a situation or get further into a situation. But I think for peace of mind, the Max Tracks, for an absolute safety, possibly the Garmin Mini InReach, that gives me a security that I get more of a feeling of than with the Max Tracks. Mm-hmm. So it's probably a toss-up there, but I would say the Max Tracks will get the most use out of those, even using them as leveling jacks or bridges to kind of change the angle slightly so we don't center out. There's just quite a bit of use to it. Shovels in the sand, to level out the van, dig out the tire a little bit lower, and there's been a lot of uses out of them so far, and just looking for even more. But I'd say that's been my best investment the last 12 months.
Mine is indoors. It's the GLSS, the Garage Lounge Storage System. Was that what it's called?
Yeah.
Garage Lounge Storage System that has the seats, because I like to make sure it's clean and tidy, and I can put things away and organize, and that has allowed me to do that. Plus, we can sit there, and if it's raining outside, we can sit in there and enjoy it if we're camping. My favorite terrain really is, and it's just
we haven't really been there for a long time, but it's going to be a slightly sandy soil, but up high altitude in the Ponderosa Pines of Arizona, and in certain parts of Arizona, just outside of Sierra Vista, and the national forest surrounding that area. I just remember it, at the time, it was our 2 youngest children. Our third son wasn't born yet, but it was just a bare bones basic of what we could afford, with a little help from the Army providing cots to sleep on, my Army cots, and, folding tables, whatever we had. We couldn't really afford to go out and buy a bunch of gear. We had a very inexpensive tent, relatively inexpensive at the time. And as a whole family, we just shoved into this little shelter made out of nylon and got away and loved it. So I say anytime I think of a good time outside, that's the terrain that keeps popping into my mind. And it's not a lot unlike the area that we're in now. When we get into the tree line back here, walk into the primitive campsites at Bomax facilities, it's just been amazing. And it kind of takes me back to that shaded, surrounded by pine trees, much cooler temperature. And yeah, I think that's my favorite terrain.
I love the mountains. Get us up there. I mean, I don't want to rock crawl per se, like I know some of y'all do. That's really fun for you, but I want it to be kind of testy, go all the way up. I want to be remote. I want there to be trees everywhere. I don't want there to be bear, but I want there to be a chance that a bear could come, because we know how to deal with that. But I just want to be away from everybody but mountains and cooler. In the south it gets so hot in the summers, and you can go up to the mountains and it's like 10 to 20 degrees cooler. So that's what I like, any mountains.
I think my bucket list adventure really is going to have to be going out west. Utah is definitely one of the top adventures. I've of course, YouTube has shown me so much and educated me so much about Utah and what there is out there. Colorado, I want to explore Colorado, Utah, and northern Arizona. And I want to do, a couple months, really, on the road. Even if we're working remote, spending long weekends to go out there and really explore. I think that's the perfect trip for me. It will show us that we're capable of doing that. And probably open up the doors to a lot more adventure. But that's on my very immediate short bucket list.
I agree with that, with his choices, but I also want to see like Montana and Wyoming and all of the area, the Pacific Northwest. I have a huge bucket list, so it's hard to narrow it down, but I would love to go anywhere out west starting.
Well, we have an Instagram account, Revel.Alliance, a little play on Star Wars, but that's Revel, R-E-V-E-L, the name of this van, Alliance. And yeah, I think that's really it. We've got some video and things that we'll post on YouTube, but it's more going to be posted on Facebook forums. So if you want to catch us directly, it's going to be Revel.Alliance on IG. Okay, I would say, you've heard it, and don't make excuses for not doing it. Go out there, try it with whatever you have. If it's a Honda Civic, if it's a 1978 Honda Civic, you'll find a way. You got to have that desire to really want to get out there. Give it a night. Even if it's just getting a few hours in to try it, pretend that you're going to be camping set up. Maybe you can fine tune what you have and figure out what you really need. Don't fall for everything that's being thrown down your throat or pushed at you, that you need this, you need that. You really don't. You can do cold cuts and a foam cooler with a $4.99 bag of ice and probably get away with a couple days, at least 3 or 4. Just get out and experience it. Have an open mind. Understand that you may not have a successful trip your first or second or third go around, but don't give up. Keep trying it. Keep finding out what works with what you've got. But you're never going to know until you try. And every day you don't go out, it's just something you're going to regret or miss. It's a missed opportunity. So we miss enough opportunities out there. Try not to miss this one.
I just want to add something. Okay, so if you were younger and you tried it and you just did not like camping, try it again. The older you get, your perception changes. I can tell you that I hated hiking and camping and all that, and he'd make me go, and I'd go, oh, I remember leaving a hiking trail crying because I hated it so much. Now I ask every single day to go hiking. Can we go hiking now? Can we go hiking? Trying the outdoors, you do. The older you get, the more your perception changes. So just try it again because you may actually love it.
You have been listening to Waypoint Overland's Random Waypoints. Like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more.